In today's video, we're going to be shifting gears from music into the realm of video games, specifically From Software's new IP, Elden Ring, which I can't even tell you guys how excited I am for this game. In case you've never noticed, this is a Dark Souls 3 map. That's Dark Souls concept art from all three games. And I even opened my mail with a Sekiro Katana letter opener. And yes, I have paint on my hands. Just got done painting my mother-in-law's restaurant, in case you were wondering why does this dude have paint all over his hands. Let's get to the important stuff. You guys want to know about Elden Ring. For anyone who doesn't have all the information, this is the video to watch. We're going to start from the very beginning, the very first leak. We're going to go all the way up until basically 1 day ago with the latest leak. Let's start from the beginning. So, leading up to E3 2019, there had been a leak about Elden Ring, and From Software, even Miyazaki himself had hinted that they were working on a new IP that the Souls fans would absolutely adore. But it was actually 2 days prior to E3, on June 9th, 2019, when Miyazaki officially announced the game. He sat down with Sam Wilkinson, a community specialist who works for Bandai Namco America, for an interview. Let's go ahead, let's take a look at that interview, and we're Souls fans, so we like to speculate. Let's pick it apart, see if we can read between the lines. I have here in my hand a copy of the entirety of the interview. I'm going to be paraphrasing and just hitting on a few of the questions. If you would like to read the entirety of the interview, there will be links in the description below. Sam Wilkinson fires off. First off, please tell me when and how development for Elden Ring took off. And this is something we all want to know, because then we can sort of guesstimate, well, if it's been in development for this long, then we might have this long. We can sort of judge how long we have to wait for the game from Software's history of how long it takes them to make a game, right? And the answer might surprise you. He actually goes on to say that Elden Ring started just after development for the Dark Souls 3 DLC. At the time, Elden Ring was being planned as a more classic fantasy title compared to the others that were being considered or already in the early stages of development. We wanted to create a new dark fantasy action RPG full of things that we weren't able to do in Dark Souls. And that got me really interested, and I'm like, wow, you want to do even more cool stuff than you did in Dark Souls? How is that possible? And later on, we're going to find out. Miyazaki also goes on to explain that he appointed 2 staff members as co-directors. He had one of them in charge of Sekiro, one in charge of Elden Ring. They both reported directly to him at the top of the hierarchy. That's a genius business model. That way, he has 2 trusting employees overseeing development of both games at the same time, and if they have any problems, they run into any hiccups, they come right to him. Here's an important question that us Souls fans wanted to know. What genre do you think Elden Ring will fall under? Miyazaki, third person, action RPG. Yes. And he goes on to say, unlike Sekiro, which had a heavy focus on the action, Elden Ring puts more focus on RPG elements, which is, for me, I loved Sekiro, but there's nothing like Dark Souls. And here's the real kicker. Wilkinson fires off. Do you believe this title will turn out to be a very From-like and challenging game? Miyazaki, yes, I do. The importance we place on the joy the player experiences through overcoming challenges will be the same as it is in our other titles. I believe it will prove to be a very satisfying experience. And we should all know by Miyazaki's track record that when he tells us we're going to like his experience, we're going to like his experience. However, there's more to Elden Ring. He is going to be introducing more, and that's what we're getting into right now. He says, earlier I had said that this title focuses more heavily on RPG elements. This title will include a wide variety of weapons, magic, and ways to engage enemies that make it possible to provide users with a style of gameplay and strategy that suits them. So we're going to have different classes. We're going to be able to make different character builds. And this title, unlike in Sekiro, where we had a name or a set character, we will have a character build system, and you can choose from a variety of beginning stats to play with. Even when compared to the Dark Souls series, I believe this title will provide even more variety in the ways for players to overcome challenges and tweak their tactics when facing enemies. Now, I was thinking about that. Dark Souls has an awful lot of weapons, and an awful lot, whether you're pyromancy, whether you're messing with the dark, whether you're an intelligence build, you have tons and tons of weapons at your disposal. So he's saying there's going to be even more in Elden Ring. And I wonder if they're going to introduce a new class. Maybe a class of magic that relies on poison or traps, bombs, things of that nature. It is now an open world that you can traverse on horseback. And I find it interesting that Miyazaki has even said we will be able to fight while on horseback traversing the world. All of us, when we were playing Sekiro and you come to the Gyaibu Onawa boss, the boss on horseback, I remember thinking, how am I going to beat this guy? He's on a horse. This isn't a Dark Souls fight. Like, I need a gun or something. But From Software did a beautiful job of keeping it in that time-based, counter-based, melee-based fighting style, even with this dude riding around on a horseback. And people have been like, well, that's not Dark Souls to traverse the world on horseback. Think Gyaibu Onawa Sekiro, and then tell me that From Software can't let us ride on horseback and it still feel like Dark Souls fighting. Moving forward, and this is where things get super interesting. We all know that Miyazaki has collaborated with Martin, but you may not know in what way he's collaborated with Martin. Basically, we were told he wrote the story. Well, that's kind of true. It's kind of not true. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist. There was just something about the thought of rooting around in a crumbled civilization's ruins and discovering something that someone had not seen for possibly thousands of years that just amazed me. And I think that's what drew me to Dark Souls. It doesn't matter what game you're playing in, there's always this beautiful kingdom that has crumbled to the ground, and that's the world we play in. And we discover through items that we explore, we find items, and through item descriptions, we discover this world, right? That's the beauty of it. And you piece it together, this thing that once was, but now has faded away. It's no different with Elden Ring. Miyazaki allowed Martin to go home and write a book. He gave him some concept art. He said, this is what I'm imagining. And then Martin went and wrote a book. Okay, but the game doesn't take place during the book. And the book is not the story of the game. The game takes place after that kingdom's civilization has crumbled. The game is still connected to that world. The items we find will have descriptions of the world that Martin wrote about in his book. It's totally Dark Souls. It's Dark Souls in a brand new open world setting. Let me read you guys a little bit about what I'm talking about. This is coming from Miyazaki. Storytelling in video games, at least the way we do it at From Software, comes with a lot of restrictions for the writer. I didn't think it was a good idea to have Martin write within those restrictions. By having him write about a time the player isn't directly involved in, he is free to unleash his creativity in the way he likes. Furthermore, as From Software, we didn't want to create a more linear and story-driven experience for Elden Ring. Both issues could be solved by having Martin write about the world's history instead. And we are going to be exploring, like little Dark Souls archaeologists, finding items that will tell us about the world that has shattered. And furthermore, being equipped with that information, we now know that there's already a book, a finished book. Miyazaki has even read it and used it for the development of Elden Ring. I would bet good money, if I had any, that once this game is released, we'll be able to purchase it and read it for ourselves. Now, Miyazaki has also commented on this. He said a novelization would mean that all the secrets and mystery hidden within our game would be revealed. From the point of view of a director, I'm not sure that would be the right thing for me to do. So yeah, he's right. Why would he allow the book to be publicized before the game has had a chance to release? But I bet we'll be able to get our hands on it after the game's release, and you can bet your bottom dollar that I will be purchasing it and reading it. Ladies and gentlemen, there is still a ton of information to convey to you, including a new leak from IGN Middle East that Elden Ring will be shown at the Game Awards, but I fear the video is getting a little bit too long, so I'm going to make a part 2 to Elden Ring, what we know thus far. Still plenty of info to come. Go ahead, click that subscribe button, leave me a like if you learned anything new, and I would love to hear you guys' comments, your theories, any speculation you have. I know there's a ton of speculation and even fan-made lore going on Reddit, even like a boss that can beat you in various ways and the boss has a name. Like, there's so much more to talk about, and I hope that you guys will join me. Click that subscribe button, come back for part 2. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.